podcast. This is Ron Costa broadcasting live in the Mapable USA studios in Las Vegas, Nevada. And folks, today we're going to talk about Reg.A. We're going to go through a process. Everybody who's interested in Reg.A, sit down, grab a cup of coffee. You're going to get really some good information today, I'm sure. Vicki Hutchmala from the World Poker Market, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Ron. As I say, we're fortunate to live in Vegas, and we're especially fortunate now because the weather's going down. I think it was only going to be like around 80 degrees or something today. We suffered through the summer just to live through the fall because it's so fabulous. And we have a really exciting podcast today with talking about Reg.A, how to do it, and also with a business owner who did it. And so this should be very interesting, very informative, and let's get started.
That's right, because even though the summer's ending, crowdfunding still happens, and Reg.A is, I'm going to have to say it's exploding, actually, because there's a lot of cases I hear now. It's getting very, very popular. And who better than Mike Brette from Small Cap Equity Advisors to come on the show and talk about it. Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Ron. Thanks again for the opportunity. And you also,
No
Vicki.
question.
Our pleasure.
Yeah.
Our pleasure, Mike.
It's always great to have you on the podcast, Mike. Like I said over and over again, whenever you're on there, we get all these comments back saying, geez, where'd you get that guy? He's great. So we got to continue.
And that's the truth.
Good. But yeah, Mike, I mean, do you agree with what I said at the opener? I mean, do you see a lot of movement right now in Reg.A? And it seems to me like it's really, really moving up.
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's been hot for quite a while, and it shows no signs really of cooling off. It's a perfect vehicle for small to medium-sized companies to do an offering and raise capital from a combination of accredited and non-accredited investors, and then they could advertise, market, and promote the offering, which a lot of small businesses need to do, because that's how you access potential investors, is get the word out there like we're doing here on this podcast. And you can use press releases, you can use television, you can use email. There are a lot of different ways you can market. So it's very hot. It's a very useful tool for businesses.
Yeah, and I'm really psyched that in this podcast in particular, we're lucky enough to have one of your clients on board. Let's welcome Mark Senelath. Mark is is the president of Sky Venture Energy. Mark, you there?
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Vicki, Ron, and Mike as well. Yeah, I am the president of Sky Venture Corporation, and Mike is taking us through Reg.A filing. And yeah, it's been a long journey.
Yeah, I bet. Well, you're in good hands with Mike for sure. But before we get started in that, why don't we get a little bit of background on you, Mark? Tell us a little about yourself and maybe a little bit about Sky.
Yeah. So I guess I'll start when I was young. We weren't really fortunate to have like the best toys in the world. So when my parents would buy us, toys that they could afford at the time, I was just a kid. I would actually just not even play with them, just use it, try to learn how it works, and just dismantle it and see if I can improve it. So with that, I noticed I'm very good with my hands, and I wanted to work with my hands. So as I was growing up, I would got into the auto mechanic industry, work on cars 2 years. After I feel like the challenge was not enough for me, I expanded to the construction industry, which led me to, work on general contracting, solar industry, electrical. My trade is an electrician, so I went to school for that. And, also do a little bit of roofing as well. So that transition, going from auto mechanic to construction, I wanted to focus on where the world was at, what the world needed. And clean energy seemed to be the most, what made sense for me, being an electrician and all, that we would get into this industry. And back in 2016, I established a company, not knowing anything about the business side, just the working technical aspect of it. You know, before 2016, before the company, I did work for various solar companies, so I've learned the business model industry and prior to my own company. But back in 2016 is when it was all hands-on. Learned a lot, got multiple licensing under the company. I am the sole contractor that holds 4 licenses: solar, electrical, roofing, and general building. And and we just trying to grow out of our, being a private company to a meeting with Mike, getting introduced to Mike. Now we're taking, Mike is, leading us forward to grow from there.
Right.
Very exciting.
When you started looking into this crowdfunding thing, was Reg.A on your mind to begin with, or did you learn about that, or was it just something that maybe like Mike brought up, or how did you hone in on Reg.A?
Yeah, so because we're in the solar industry, energy company, or renewable, I should say, there's a big industry and big demand that requires, has a lot of potential and growth. But with Mike, we got introduced to Mike. There's a lot of opportunity that myself and the company want to expand into the battery industry. And Mike suggested that this direction may just be fit for us.
Well, you certainly picked the right person, Mark, because if there's anybody who's an expert in crowdfunding, it certainly is Mike. And I'm sure he held your hand along the process, even though it was difficult.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it has been a process. Mark knows that. We've been at it probably about 8 months now. A lot of it taken up with accounting and audits and things of that nature. But, it's a process. That's what I tell everybody. It's a process. It's not that, taking a company through the SEC is not a slam dunk process. But the Reg.A is a method I like for companies like Mark's, which are fledging and looking to raise some capital in using, again, the Reg.A methods as I described, with accredited, non-accredited, and then getting listed to trade. It's a pretty good vehicle.
Yeah, it takes a long time. It takes a lot of effort, and you have to commit to it because it's not easy. You have to have the right professionals with you, guiding you and helping you along the way. But once you achieve it, you're right. It's one of the best ways to raise capital.
Yeah, and also if you've got the if you really want to commit to going public, it's a perfect method as well, as opposed to and we've talked about this on your show before, Ron. Reverse mergers or S1 filing, different things like that are more cumbersome and not really favorable to small businesses anymore, like a reverse merger. So the Reg.A really takes the place of all that. So again, I like the process.
Yeah, we
and
also
especially if it's a young company that doesn't have a lot of history and a lot of financial record keeping, and that it's an easier process to go through. Also, when you're not starting, but relatively a young company.
Yeah, and then go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, and I was really fortunate to help Mike and his team because Mike pretty much spearheaded the whole process. I was just there, just going with the flow. Whatever he needed, we would provide that. So
yeah. Makes it much easier because even though you know everything there is to know about solar and green energy and that, you need to have professional advisors helping you with the things that you don't know to make sure that you don't forget something or you don't neglect to do something or what. Because if you go through the process and you get down to the finish line and then you get disregarded because you didn't do something or you forgot to do something, and now you have to start all over again. You save yourself so much time and money and effort by having the right people at the very beginning, making sure that everything is done correctly, because it is a process.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, it is. And Mike, I was going to say before, one of the concepts that you brought up at a previous podcast, which I've taken to heart, I think it's really brilliant, is the term dead money. You always talk about dead money and why it's so important to go onto this exchange. And I think Reg.A is a great vehicle, like you mentioned before, to go from a crowdfunding to a goal of being listed on a major exchange. So I think that's really the way to go. If you're going to do it, you might as well do it the right way, right?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because private companies, if they decide to stay private, again, it's dead money to investors because once an investor puts money into a private company, they can't get it back. Most companies don't pay dividends, and so there's no return to an investor. It's just again, dead money. And that's why the exit strategy of going public is attractive to investors, and if you've got the right team to take you public and you've got the right company, committed management like Mark is, and producing revenue like Mark is, that's one of the critical elements too. And Mark's in a sector, the solar and lithium battery sector, that's very hot now, and it's going to be the future for energy, especially here in California, Nevada, and other states. So if you put all those together in the package, the dead money issue goes away because you're using Reg.A as a tool to bring investors in and then give them an exit strategy because they have free trading stock that can eventually sell if they want.
Yeah, and Mark's company is making money, but Mike, do you see this as an option for like pre-revenue companies or companies that maybe you just can't do a startup and go right to the major exchanges, or can you?
Yeah, it's really, you can, but it's really difficult because the reason people will buy a stock in the open market, whether it's a retail investor or an institutional investor, the reason they'll buy it is so they make money. They want to be able to buy at a certain price and sell it at a certain price and then buy it again and then sell it. They want to be able to trade it and make money. And so one of the key elements to make a company attractive is revenue. But again, if they have minimal revenue, they can still use the Reg.A process as long as they have maybe some intellectual property or some kind of barrier to entry, we call it, to keep out the competition and show the investment community that it's worth taking a chance on buying the stock because there's some growth prospects. But having said that, revenue is really one of the key elements. It doesn't have to be, but it's really important in the long run. And growing and showing how you can scale that revenue is really important. And that's what Mark can demonstrate, where he started and where he's at now and where he's going to go from a revenue standpoint. And I'll let him talk about that, but it's an industry where he can grow.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, Mark, you want to expand on that?
Yeah. So I established a company back in 2016. Very minimal revenue, very new, about 30 something thousand that year. From that next year, the following year, 2017, I added another license to the company. The first license, 2016, was solar. Second license, 2017, was electrical. That gave us a lot of opportunity of growth because solar is not just about installing solar on someone's roof. It's a lot has to do with electrical as well. With that, I believe our revenue that year, 2017 alone, came out to be around $300,000. And 2018, we added another roofing license because, we also work on roofs because solar installation is not just on the ground, it's also on homes, commercial buildings, industrial buildings, and things like that. So with that, 2018, we were up to, I believe, close to 1 million. But what really hit it off was 2019 and 2020. From 19, we hit about 3.1 million. 2020, we hit 4.2 million. So in 2021, we should be hitting pretty close figures to that as well. So there's a big jump from 17 to 18 as far as revenue, because all the licensing, all the opportunities that we can take on, multiple trade, multiple services.
Yeah, and you did it all during COVID when everybody was home.
Oh, yeah,
right?
Definitely. That's when everybody noticed they needed some work.
Yeah. Well, solar at this point, though, is a very competitive industry, right? I mean, you probably have a lot of competitors. You got to somehow work around that too, right? So how do you make yourself attractive when it comes down to there's so many companies out there that are doing this?
Yeah, definitely. So I've been in the solar industry myself since 2009, working for various solar companies from there on. So I've seen a lot of changes, and a lot of things that I've seen that was done, I wanted to improve, upon, or I promised myself, like, one day if I own my own company, this is what I'm going to do different. So with multiple licensing under our company, we're like a one-stop shop. So as far as the service side, we're one-stop shop. We can handle anything that's solar related, whether it's roofing, solar, electrical, from beginning to the end. So we don't work with, or I should say, we don't sub out work. We do everything in-house. We have journeyman roofers, certified electricians, and installers, solar installers. So we do everything in-house. A lot of our customers are happy that they only have to deal with one company rather than dealing with multiple trade companies, because it takes a lot of time to communicate, coordinate, and a lot more money to the customer. So we try to be that one-stop company that they deal with.
And solar is a lot. People think of solar and they think of panels on somebody's roof, but it goes way beyond that. And there's a lot of companies that's all they do. They install the panels, they hook them up, they turn them on, and there you go. But it sounds as though SkyLimit is doing everything involved in it, which is the storage and which is creating the electrical systems within the structure, be it a residential. I would imagine you do residential and commercial structures as well. And as you say, everything in-house makes everything easier, more economical, and it's genius that you could anticipate the applications and get the necessary licensing to be able to hire those people to do everything in-house. That was genius.
Yeah, and then in addition to that, I've noticed that the industry is shifting more towards electric vehicles. So electric vehicles, they need batteries to operate, right? To store them. So it kind of puts our industry it's very difficult to get these batteries. So all the battery manufacturers are going for the EV. So what our company is doing, what we're developing, is to repurpose these electric vehicle batteries that's already been existing for 10, 15 years, and they're starting to not hold their charge and discharge as a promise. So they're either recycling them, they're throwing it away, or they're just turning them in. So what we are doing is developing to repurpose these technologies to store energy for outdoor use. Yeah, and at the same time, create an application to test and monitor the lifespan of those batteries as well, because it's a great technology. It's already proven that it's working on these electric vehicles. So we want to be able to maximize it and then be able to safely dispose it to the world.
And exactly, and apply it to various different possibilities. And plus, it fits in with the whole solar concept of energy in recycling instead of rebuilding. You're recycling to be able to be more energy efficient. It like all flows together. But let's talk about how you decided to go with Reg.A and where you are in the process, and what you found to be the most difficult, or what surprised you that was relatively easy, aside from having Mike as your advisor. what part of it was surprising, or what part was easy, and what was the most difficult? Of course, that's a very long question, but give us a little info.
So it's not easy, and the reason why I say that is it takes a lot of my time, when I'm running the operation of the day-to-day business, as well as when needed to pull certain type of documents. Fortunately, I have, a team in-house to help take care of that, as well as Mike and his team. But I say it's a lot of kind of waiting process. Nothing comes quick, and and then also the money aspect as well. I know it's not as much as it can be, but as a company that's growing, it does take a little bit of money to go through this process. So, but again, with my help and the team, I'm saving a lot of money through things that I could go on my own and make a mistake and do it over again. So I eliminate that by with Mike's help and his team.
Oh, always.
Yeah,
when you do it right the first time, you save a lot of money having to fix the mess that you made because you thought you could do it yourself. Some things you just can't do yourself.
Right. Yeah, and there's a whole team with my team working with Mark. We bring the legal, we bring the accounting, the audit, document organization, Edgarizing the documents for the SEC, which is required. It's all electronic. The marketing, investor awareness, the videos. So we're, just like Mark is a one-stop shop, we're a one-stop shop as well. So, we offer all those services to Mark and to anybody else as far as legal, accounting, marketing, IR, a kind of a package deal, because it's all essential. There's no cutting corners to get the job done. And, Mark's been really good about being attentive and available, and his team is right there when, the accountants need something or the legal needs something, they provide it, they sign documents, they execute. So it's a win-win situation, but it's also a team effort with his team and our team putting it together to make it a success. And anytime you deal with the SEC or state regulators and things of that nature, they get involved, and it slows the process. But once it's done, and you just have to maintain it after that.
So let me ask you a little, I guess, basic questions. How long does the process take? And relatively, I guess, how much it costs depends, of course, on how much you're trying to raise. But give us a little bit of an idea of the length of time and an average anticipation of the cost.
Yeah, it can take anywhere from 4 to 8 months to get the process done. A lot of that is on the accounting side and the auditors, because you're required under Reg.A to have 2 years of audited financials. And if you've been in business, as long as Mark has, and you start generating revenue, that's the time-consuming part right there, is to have everything from an accounting standpoint. And then you can't file the legal work, the Form 1A, until the accounting is done, because it's all got to be filed together, with the SEC. So the time frame is anywhere from 4 months to 8 months, could be a little bit longer. Once you file with the SEC, they can come back with questions and comments. We were fortunate that we didn't have a review process with the SEC. We filed everything, and they got back to Mark with a letter saying, no review is necessary. Just let us know when you want to be qualified. And so, some companies, they go through 9, 10, 15, 25 questions and comments with the SEC before they get qualified. And we didn't have to do that because all of our paperwork was spot on. Now we've got to redo some of the material, the filings, because certain time frames have passed. As far as a cost standpoint, Vicki, from A to Z, you have legal, you have accounting, then you have the marketing and everything. I mean, you could be looking at a total fee, of around $175,000 to $250,000 all in to get it done. Of course, that it's not all paid up front. It's it's paid in payments, worked out. And we try to work with Mark's budget and anybody else's budget, but that's to answer your question, kind of a long way around. That's the time frames, the cost, and then you have your ongoing to maintain filings with the SEC. Once you're public, you've got a quarterly file you got to do, and then fortunately with Reg.A, you only have to do 2 reports a year. You do a quarterly and a yearly report. If you go public with an S1 or direct listing, you've got to report several times a year to the SEC, and that can be really time-consuming and expensive. That's why I like the Reg.A method, less requirements with the SEC as far as ongoing reporting.
Well, and even if you spent $250,000 to get the whole process to where it is, it's actually economical when you consider the total amount of funds that you want to raise. And also, that's what makes it so very, very important to make sure that you have experts like yourself, Mike, because you save money by doing it right the first time and not having any questions or comebacks from the SEC. That actually saves you money that you're not having to do it because you know what you're doing. So you actually saved Mark money by doing it right, and Mark saved money by hiring you to be able to do it the best way possible. So that's really not that much, and 8 months is not that long either.
No. Yeah, we always like to shorten things up, but it's just when you start dealing with outside agencies, it just, it attacks on time. But, we're across the finish line now, and we're just waiting for the letter from the SEC, and then we're doing state filings right now to qualify, and they're not qualify, but just file. That's the other beauty about a Reg.A. If you do a Tier 2 Reg.A like we did for Mark, you just have to file in the states that you want to raise money. You just have to file. And pay the state filing fees, but there's no review or approval with a Tier 2. If you do a Tier 1, then you've got to go through that approval process, the merit review, and I mean, that can add months to an offering. That's why I always like the Tier 2 like we did for Mark.
Yeah, I was going to say before that the Tier 1 is just, if you have a choice, you definitely should go with the Tier 2. But I got to tell you, Mike, if there was like an Academy Award for Reg.A, well, you got 0 comments back from that's unbelievable. That's incredible. Yeah, right there and there.
That's why we call you expert.
Successful. Yes.
Yeah, that's why we call you the expert, Mike, because
Mark's got a clean operation. That's the beauty about Mark's business.
That's good too.
He's in the sector, and that's growing. That's hot right now, and then he's got everything organized.
That makes a difference.
That helped as well.
So Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like from what Mike is saying, for you, it was just a matter of, okay, Mike's going to tell me to get A, B, C, D, E. I'm going to get all that stuff for him. And then, Mike does his thing and it moves forward. I mean, right? Was that the process for you?
Yeah, pretty much. Whatever Mike says or however he suggests, I'm just running with it. I trust Mike from the beginning. I have no doubt at all. The challenge to me is just making it happen on time, getting our financial audit in time, just everything during the process, just making sure that I do my part. So that was the most challenge for this process, but Mike made it just very seamless.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
One
Well,
other, Ron, I know
go
we're
on.
running out of time, Ron, but I just want to emphasize one point on Mark's business. He touched on the lithium battery technology that he's developing, and if he can just expand on that a little more, I think that's really, in addition to his, the solar panels for commercial and residential, I really think the lithium battery portion of his company is going to be a driving force moving forward, just because you can't really just throw the lithium batteries away. You have to figure out how to dispose of them. And Mark's got a repurposing technology, and if he could just expand on that a little bit for the few minutes we have left, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, so all these batteries, lithium batteries, is coming from electric vehicles, and they're being turned over, whether it just doesn't charge and discharge as it should, or the lifespan is towards the end, or vehicles are being dismantled or turned around or turned over, or just batteries being recycled. So what we do is we locate these from suppliers, and we take them, test them, put them together, build an inverter, battery management system, put them together, test them, make sure they can hold storage, through solar energy charging them, solar panels, I should say, solar panels, charging these batteries, and they can be used for any outdoor purpose, whether it's a portable generator, you want to take it to, outdoor camping or construction site for powering up lights. But what we want to do, and the idea behind all this is, because we don't have disposable money at the moment, so we want to be able to learn these technologies and find out what works best, what does the industry need, where is the world going, where, what every variable, we're trying to figure this out by being exposed to different technologies of these battery technologies. And our goal is, once we can build that large amount of capital to part of the capital is going to go for R&D, and the idea is so that we can learn the technology and improve it, and even come out, if possible, with a better technology that's going to be more usable, hold longer, energy, and then just be more safer. So that's kind of the goal, this whole process. But we got to start from somewhere where we're able to obtain and build from there and learn.
Yeah. Oh, great story. Yeah. You guys are onto something. I really like it a lot. One more question for you, Mike. Let's just discuss really quickly. When a company decides it's going to go and access the public market, they want a listing on the NASDAQ or whatever it is. How does that company determine the valuation for the share? Really quickly, can you explain that really fast?
Yeah, that's a good question. There are two ways you can do it. You can go out and hire a business evaluation firm, which I've done in the past for clients, and they go in and they go through everything, books, records, the marketing strategy, partners, and they come up with a valuation. That's an expensive and time-consuming process. The other way to determine the stock price is through what are the current revenues, what are the projected revenues, how long the company's been in business, do they have any intellectual property, the strength of the management team, the sector that they're in. So you can pull all those elements together and come up with your own internal evaluation. And in this case, what we did is we priced Mark's Reg.A at $1 a share. We're selling 20 million shares at $1 a share, and we put all those factors together to come up with that price. So for investors who want to buy out of the Reg.A. That price will be different than the price of when we start trading. The stock could be trading at $3 or $4 a share, $2, $3, or $4, $5 a share, depending on how the market then. The open market precedes the value of the stock and the valuation. So those are some of the elements that factor into it.
Right. Okay. That sounds pretty interesting too. Of course, my lawyer just called and said that we're not promoting the stock, by the way. Just so all the people who are listening,
yeah, no,
just providing
yeah.
information.
Yeah, and we're not promoting the Reg.A right now either. We're
that's
talking
right.
about Mark's
Right.
business and everything and Reg.A in general. So
we don't want more lawyers calling us. That's for sure.
No.
We certainly want to be involved with the SEC. So, but anyway, listen, you know what? Honestly, I think that anyone who's even considering going public, listening to this right now, you're going to have a great resource in Mike. Mike, how do people get a hold of you? What's a good way to contact you?
Yeah, they can email me at mikebret@gmail.com. They can go to my LinkedIn page, Michael Brette, and pick up a lot of information. They can call me, 951-236-8473. And
Mark, you got a great story too. How do people get a hold of you?
They can go to our website, skylimicenergy.com, and seek my contact there, or they could give us a call at 626-434-9606.
Yeah, and then Vicki, we just did a podcast recently about electronic vehicles and venture capital and opportunity zones, and then we did one on solar, more like an informational kind of thing and why you may need it. But this podcast kind of ties it all together in a company that's doing this and is actually raising money right now. Did we just come full circle on this or what?
Absolutely, Ron. It's kind of like our specialty, only people don't really understand that. But it's so special to, just like you said, it's special to know that there are entrepreneurs like Mark who have created an idea using the new technology with a vision to the future, to see what's possible, to see what the potential is, and prepare for the future now, and had the very good fortune to connect with Mike to be able to expand his company to meet the future and be ahead of the game. It just brought everything together, and with two special people that, I don't know, it just warms my heart. I love it.
Thanks.
Well,
thank you.
Yeah,
It was good.
Mark and Mike, really appreciate you're taking time out to be on the podcast, being a guest. This was really good information. Like I said, I think everybody who's looking to go public can learn something from this. So I thank you again for being on the show.
Okay, thanks a lot, Ron. Vicki, thanks a lot.
Yeah,
thank you, Mark.
Our pleasure, always.
Yep.
Okay.
Vicki, thanks for co-hosting this episode. And folks, you're listening to the Mappable USA podcast at MappableUSA.com. If you go to that homepage, just scroll down a little bit. You'll see all our syndication sources. Pick the one you like best, and you'll never miss another one of our episodes. If you want to be a guest on the show, like Mike and Mark were today, just fill out that guest form. We'll see what we can do about getting you on the show. And if you like what you heard today, send us an email at info@MappableUSA.com, or just leave a comment on whatever page you're listening to this on right now. So thanks for listening. Thanks for your support. We'll be at you next time with another Mappable USA podcast. Have a great week, everyone.